Well, hey YouTube, it is one of the last nice days of the year. I've got one more day today, one more day, and then rain and then cold. So it is time to get off my butt and get outside and get some of the things picked out of the garden that I want in before it gets wet and cold out there. So I thought I would take you with me. We're going to pick potatoes. I'm pulling the potatoes and the onions for sure, and we'll see what else is out there. And please ignore the weeds because I gave up on those a month ago when I started harvesting all the things and canning everything. So let's go check it out. Okay, first we're going to stop at the little onion bed. This is where I moved some transplants to, but I'm really happy with the fact that these are starting to lay over, which tells me that they're ready to be pulled. And you can see they're nice and narrow, these necks. What I want is, especially if you're going to be storing these through the winter, you want these narrow necks. These are the ones that are going to store better. And anything with a thicker neck, like even that one, I will try to eat those up first. And this one is pretty thick. So we're going to go ahead and lift these, and then we'll go to the other onion bed and do the same thing. And we have already had a mild frost out here, so most of my tender vines like cucumbers, the squash plants, some of those things I can see that they're definitely damaged already. Look how gorgeous these are. They're definitely already damaged from frost. So it's time to be done out here. And I just put these like that for now. And I'll kind of just try to leave as much of the papery outer cover on, but brush off any of the damp or dirt. You don't rinse these right now, especially if you're going to be storing them through the winter. I'm not going to rinse these. I'm just going to brush some of that dirt off because you don't want the moisture at all. And that's why I'm doing this today, because it's like 2:30 in the afternoon and I was just making cookies or whatever in the house. And I looked at the weather and realized that it's supposed to rain day after tomorrow. See, like this one, see how thick that stem is? I'm going to just put that in the fridge and we'll cook that up for a meal here pretty soon, because that will not store. That thick neck, I don't know if it's too much moisture or why that does that, as opposed to this one. Look how skinny that is. That one will store well, but again, you want that moisture off there. Just gently brush these off, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do next if you want to store your onions long term into the winter like we do, because we'll put these up and hang them, and then you can have onions on hand, like, onions on deck well into the winter if you take care of them right. Let's go to the other bed and we'll see what's going on over there. And you can see, I don't know if you can see right over here, yeah, all the squash beds are all dead. The pumpkins are ready to pull. I need to clean out all the raspberries. That needs to be cut into like a third as small. That's so too big. We've still got carrots to pick. We've still got parsnips, gorgeous parsnips to pull and roast. And this is the other onion bed, and these are a little smaller and they're still a little more upright. A lot of them are laying over though. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to pull all of them and deal with them now, because like I said, we're going to have rain coming up. So let's get these pulled. And same thing with these. These are nice. The necks are nice and little. On a lot of these, the neck has already withered a bit. So these are going to be pretty good for storing, even though they're not huge. Some of them are nice and big. And these are Walla Walla. If you grow onions, we usually do either Spanish or Walla Walla. And these are all Walla Wallas this year. So I'm going to go ahead and get these all out of the ground, and then we'll see what's what. And here's a little trick you can keep in mind. If you want to grow onions for seed, you could leave, like I'm going to leave a couple of these smaller ones in the ground. I don't know which ones, but if you leave one or two in the ground, and you don't need many, leave them in the ground over the winter. And if they survive the winter, which they should, next year you'll see them come up and they'll grow back up, and they'll grow a stalk up from the center, and it'll grow way up and it'll bloom, and you'll get a gorgeous head of onion seeds. And you'll have plenty from one head. Like there's a lot of seeds on a head of onion. So leave a couple of them in the ground if you want. I might leave a couple of these little tiny ones in and just see what happens for next year, as long as they're kind of close together. I may pull some of these and just stick them back in the ground somewhere in a little clump, because I want to use this bed, pull some weeds out of it, and then I'm going to probably put some daffodils and tulips in here for next year, just to make some use out of this bed early in the year next year, and to have some pretty color to see from the house. So what I think I'll do is actually just pull. Onions are pretty easy to transplant, or at least I've had good luck. Pull them out, like that. I'm just going to put them in a little group over here where they can just kind of chill together, out of the way, but still in the ground. There's 3, that's more than enough. More than enough. 3 of those, and we'll just go ahead and keep pulling the rest. And the little tiny ones, we'll just, cut them up for dinners here coming up this fall in the next couple of weeks. Again, just kind of shake off any loose dirt. It's been a nice dry week here. Since it's been fairly dry, you can see the soil is nice and dry, so we're not having to worry about these coming out of wet, muddy soil or, damp at all. So I think these are gonna do really well to dry for the winter. Look how big that one is. There's still a little bit of moisture in that soil, but again, we're just gonna brush it off as much as we can. And if you don't have raised beds, oh my gosh, get raised beds. I have a link down below for these. They're Vigo. I am in love with these. I mean, as you get older, you will find gardening at this height is flippin' amazing. You don't have to squat, no squatting, no bending, no lifting, just like you're just barely bending over. Like you could literally do this and be 100 years old. This is such an easy way to garden. I'd like to have more of these. We have a lot of them. We bought 14. So we have a lot. I don't really need, you can't put corn in them or anything. I'm just gonna grab a few weeds out of here while I'm here. And there is our gorgeous piles of onion. I'll bring the cart and we'll get all this in the cart, and then let's talk about how we're gonna store these for the winter. And the way we're gonna get these ready to store for a winter and have them be nice and crispy and ready to go for months to come, make sure you get all the dirt off, but I'm gonna not remove as much of this papery stuff as possible. We're gonna just leave that on. And I'm gonna leave the tops on. And what I'm gonna do is take these in and lay them out of direct sunlight in a warm, dry place. So I'm gonna put them inside, but if you had a warm garage or a barn or something where they won't get disturbed, we're gonna lay them out in one single layer, not touching each other. And I will lay them on paper, newspaper on tables, and just spread them out in kind of a shady spot, just probably in our dining room for lack of a better place, or upstairs. And I'm gonna just let them cure like that for about 2 weeks. And then I'll come back and I may trim the tops, but I like to actually braid the tops like you see, and make the little rope of onions. And then they're ready to store for longer term going into the winter, and you don't have to worry about your onions going bad that way. So that is what we're gonna do with the onions. And let's go grab some potatoes. Here you can see the damage from the frost. We had a light frost and it definitely killed the acorn squash. I need to pull some of the acorn squash out of here and take them in. And my raspberries spread, the raspberries spread way too far this way. There is a row of potatoes underneath this mess, straight back, all the way back along there's kidney beans on the runners right there. Looks like the tomatoes are wiped out too, so I haven't been out here to see the damage. But I've picked everything we need out of the garden, and we have some butternuts to pull there. And the rest of the green beans are going to seed. The peppers are finished, already picked all of those. I had my daughter came and cleaned out those back beds, and I got my cabbage off there, and the back clump right there is Brussels sprouts. I'm not sure if they're gonna still do anything. So let's see about these potatoes, and I'll show you how to get these out of the ground and do the same thing as with the onions. And we're gonna start with this first one because it's the only one that's really visible underneath the mess here. And if we had a crazy year, and like this was supposed to be a bush plant and it turned into a vining plant that was acorn squash. It went clear out in the aisle. Like, I don't even know. But it happens. So the potato plants are underneath all the vines, and you can see they've died back. So, and look at this. There they are. If you've never harvested potatoes, this is so satisfying. Check this out. And we did all red. Oh, look at this. Look how many. Look how beautiful they are. And they're nice and dry because it's been fairly dry weather again out. So we're going to pull these. And what I will do is actually just, you can lift the whole plant if you want. Let me see if I can set my camera where you can see what's going on. You can actually just grab the plant and start pulling. And you'll pull the plant up and just pop the little bits off. Kind of shake it up a little. And you can see how many are still on there that would have still grown bigger, but it's just too late in the year here. So those are going to be new potatoes, which are terrific to steam for dinner. And then you can just dig down into here. Watch how cool this is. There's a rotten one in the middle. Avoid the rotten one, probably because it frosted. So avoid, there's a gooey spot right there, yuck. But around that, look at this. I mean, guys, gorgeousness. And I just kind of keep going back, and you'll see there's another one, and there's another one. Look how big these got. Oh, these are stunning. Awesome. And you can kind of just pull the pile apart and you'll still find some more here and there. And you can do, a lot of people use like a special little rake or shovel-y thing and get under these and lift, but I just like to use my hands because I don't want to stick, I don't want to cut them. And so you can see what we've got here from this is one hill, and I think I have 9 hills. So we've got some really, really big ones and some really, really small ones. And this is the same thing. We're going to put these in a cool, dry place for about 2 weeks. Just lightly brush the dirt off, spread them out on paper towels on tables, and kind of cure them for a couple of weeks. And then they go in ventilated bins. And I actually put them in our garage because we have the right temperature out there to store these through the winter. Unless it gets bitter, bitter cold, like below 0, these will be fine for months. I've had them last into the next Easter in our garage. So depending on your weather, you can probably pull that off without having to have a root cellar. And since it's dry and this vine is dead with the acorn squash, I'm going to go ahead and pull these in before it starts to get rainy and gross. What you want to do with your winter squash, like this beauty, they're nice and solid and firm and dry, and you've got a nice firm stem right here. What you want to do is break that off with a little bit of that stem. Let's see if I can get it. Oh, shoot. That one didn't work. What you don't want to do is break it off and end up with that, because that won't store as well. What I have found is if you can pick one, let me find one in here, like this one. So like this, you want to take some of that stem with it. You want to keep some of that tail of that stem attached, like that. That will store nicely, just in a cool, dark place. Dry, again, don't rinse these off. Just brush them off, and you can rinse them before you cook them. But that'll keep for months in a cool, dry place inside. So I'm going to get the rest of these in and get them in the cart with these, and then I'll actually get my cutters and cut this because I want to have a little bit of that stem on there to keep these nice, gorgeous winter squash stored through the winter. GoPro, stop recording. I'll actually get my cutters and cut this because I want to have a little bit of that stem on there to keep these nice, gorgeous winter squash stored through the winter. One more thing we're going to do while we're out here. Look what we just got. I did not get as many potatoes as we wanted, but we got way more squash than we will probably ever need. And this is off of 2 vine acorn squash. Oh my goodness. I don't even know how many are there, but that's a lot of squash. Find out why everyone's talking about squash, I guess. Lots of beautiful butternuts. And the rest of this is just things that are going to seed, and we'll pull the pumpkins soon. And I'll see about the Brussels sprouts. But the beans I'm letting go to seed so I can pick them. So I leave them on the pod until they're dry and ready to come in. And this is a patch of sunflowers that I planted from seeds we got in the Loire Valley in France at Villandry, which is one of the most famous gardens in the world. And I'm going to take a look, and they look like they're ready. Oh, look at that. Gorgeous. So, sorry my hands are really beat up right now, but there are some beautiful sunflower seeds that we can bring in and also dry. And I probably won't do too many of these. I'll show you how to roast your own sunflower seeds if you want. They're easy. You can make your own salted sunflower seeds, but I actually will probably pick a lot of these for seeds again, and a lot of these heads I'll save for the chickens to pick out through the winter. But there's a nice little patch of French sunflowers. And we still have, and we will for a while, we still have beautiful Swiss chard growing. We're still eating this for dinners right now. I need to pull the carrots and the parsnips like we talked about. This giant plant is elecampane, all the way up to there, and that is something that you pull the root So once this freezes down a little bit, I will pull some of the root out of this, and that makes an excellent winter, it's a lung herb, one of the premier herbs for lung ailments. And we still have poppy growing, so I'll probably pick some of this for sleep because I have a really hard time sleeping, so I grow a lot of things for insomnia. And some more beautiful sage. Look at how gorgeous this sage plant is. I'm so excited about this. All the marigolds have pretty much frosted and gone to seed, so I'll save some seeds. And if you plant them early enough, they have time to reseed themselves. These are new that reseeded. And then I've got rosemary growing in here, which will not survive the winter. So I've already picked a bunch of this and dried it inside. So that'll probably be that. I could try putting it in the greenhouse, but they just don't make it here. So there's a little quick walk around for the garden. Let's see what's down here. Oh, beets. There's still some beets and some betony. This is wood betony, which is gorgeous, and it makes a nice tea. And a little bit of beets, which I may pick and just use the greens for the chickens, and then can some more beets. And lots and lots and lots of calendula seeds. Oh my goodness, this was my whole patch right here. And they're still blooming a little bit, but lots of seeds. Look at these gorgeous. They are like a little curl. So cool. So we'll replant, save some of those for replanting next year. And calendula is wonderful to put in salves and things. So there's just a quick walk through the messy, weedy, but very productive autumn garden. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.